Welcome to the Great Work of Your Life, an interview series produced by Revealing Genius. Our guest today is the Chief Medical Director, Employee Health and Wellbeing at Johns Hopkins Medicine. He's also an Assistant Professor of Medicine and Public Health at Johns Hopkins University and an adjunct faculty member at American University. He is a workplace health and well-being thought leader and pioneer. And he's worked in the employee health and well-being space for more than 2 decades. He's a national speaker on the topic, I can attest, and he is recognized as an expert in creating well-being cultures in the workplace. And I met him at a recent ASHRA conference in Fort Worth, Texas, where he led a very lively workshop. And as a result, I read his book. I actually listened to it on Audible. It's called A Cure for the Common Company, a well-being prescription for a happier, healthier, and more resilient workforce, published by Wiley. He is the first author to provide a step-by-step roadmap for creating a well-being culture that integrates science with practical solutions, as demonstrated by numerous real stories from successful companies, and they are really great. We're going to hear more about that today. So please help me welcome Dr. Richard Safir.
Thank you, Mary. And please call me Rich. I always say if I'm not your doctor, call me by my first name. And I'm so glad that I came and sat down at the same table as you, and we had breakfast that morning at the American Society of Healthcare Human Resources Association meeting.
Yes, my good fortune. As a matter of fact, I changed my schedule after our conversation because I was so fascinated by the work you've done, the deep and wide work you've done on well-being and health. So my good fortune, I ended up going to your workshop, and it was absolutely worth it, which brings us here today. So I'm really excited to get started with some questions. Shall we start at the top?
Yeah.
What gives you energy and what drains your energy?
Well, what gives me energy is helping people. And I know I'm invited here because of my role at Hopkins. And yes, it gives me energy when our employees have positive things to say about how our strategy is helping them. But I have to say, as a father, the same is true. I get energy when I've been there for my kids and have helped them.
Wonderful. How many kids do you have? Remind me, Rich.
We have 3 kids. I got to give my wife credit. She was absolutely part of the equation.
Yes, we talked about that at breakfast, definitely, which is a huge part of your personal brand is family first. We talked about family first, definitely. So what drains your energy?
The opposite of both of those. So, I mean, we do great work at Hopkins, and we're helping a lot of our internal Hopkins community. But, we have 40,000 people in our workforce, and it's challenging work. And so, it definitely can drain me when I know there's pockets of our employees who are struggling. And of course, my kids might have a bad day, and I kind of carry their emotions with me. I think that there's a saying, like when someone asks you, how are you doing? I'm only doing as well as the child who's having the most difficulty that day.
Yes, well said. Definitely. Which is a great segue into the next question is, what do you love the most about your work? And what do you like the least about your work? You strike me as someone who has found the great work of their life. Yes?
Oh, well, yes, I feel very fortunate to have found it. I didn't know when I was growing up that this is where I was going to be, but yeah, I'm very fortunate. I think that the best part of my job is when I actually am able to work with our people, like anywhere from the front line all the way up to the executives. When I'm with them in person, that gives me a lot of energy, and it drives a lot of my professional satisfaction. I have to say, I'm privileged to be in a leadership position to help make decisions and drive our strategy forward, but it's honestly tough at times. There's a lot of pieces to move on our very complicated and large chessboard.
Yes, and in your book, you outline these 6 building blocks.
Mhm.
And I pulled a quote if you don't mind, where you said it takes more than a program, a portal, and a prize to become a Fortune 100 best company to work for. And you really do believe in these 6 building blocks. Can you share a little bit more about those?
Oh, yeah, sure. Most employers who understand that it's in everyone's interest to support employee health and well-being, they do the right thing in the sense that they are trying to improve the nutritional education or the food choices, encourage movement. All of those things are very good as a beginning. However, what most employers are missing out on is the power of the social sciences that are in essence a large part of the well-being culture framework that I'm proposing that our listeners read and apply. So that's really the essence. How are our coworkers influencing us? How are our leaders influencing us? How are the norms, the expected behaviors of the people that we are on the same team with? And there's a few more. And without leveraging those powerful innate social forces, we are not optimizing the support that each of us needs going through a workday.
Yes, it makes sense. I pulled another quote where you spent a lot of time talking about the importance of workplace relationships. And I love when you said well being is a team sport
Yeah.
and you are the captain. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. And I was writing that chapter, and it just came out like I'm like, yeah, that is what it is. Mary, many people want to have a healthier and more well day, a more well life, and most of us go about trying to do this on our own. We all have different reasons why we are trying to do this by ourselves, but the science bears out that when we ask those around us, whether it's at home or in the workplace or at our place of religion, we are much more likely to succeed when we ask for help, when we explain what our needs are, and when the social forces around us are aligning to support us. Now, I don't want our listeners to think, though, it's only about relationships. There are other pieces in this well-being culture model that are necessary. But well-being is a team sport. If people can remember that phrase, then it's going to make it much more easy for us during the workday to recognize, hey, who am I asking to go for a walk with today? Because if I have a colleague to do that, I'm much more likely to carry through on my commitment.
Yes, and I appreciate you writing because that it literally stuck with me. That quote. It's interesting. You mentioned earlier at the top of the hour that you didn't plan to land in this work.
That's
So
right.
how did well, when did you realize
Uh-huh.
what the great work of your life would be?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I have thought the great I had thought the great work of my life was going to be as a family doctor for 30 years in the same practice. I just, had this feeling inside of me that started in ninth grade in biology, that that's where I was headed. But Mary, honestly, in my second year of practicing family medicine, I was getting tired. I was tired of like going from one room to the next, and I had like 15 minutes. And my patients, honestly, we needed more time, both of us, to have a meaningful conversation to get to the root of the problem. And it was frustrating for me. And I'm pretty sure that my patients would have wanted more time. And then they were running back to work. Now, at some point, I realized, they're only spending 15 minutes with me, but they're spending almost 2,000 hours a year at their workplace. Light bulb, I need to be working at a large company so that I have more time with the employees. At the time I was thinking of them as patients, so that I can have a much more meaningful impact.
It makes total sense when the light bulb went off.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, did you ever have doubts about the great work of your life? Because well-being and health, it's the notion of well-being could be perceived as sort of ethereal. It's sometimes hard to quantify. Did you ever have any freak out moments?
Well, doubts. I never had doubts about working as a physician. I did study nutrition in college before going to medical school. I wasn't certain about which specialty to go into. I liked them all and I did well in all of them. But because I liked them all, I went into family medicine thinking I could do it all. I guess the doubts started after that first year, and I was doubting whether or not I was making a difference, to be honest. These short visits, knowing the complicated conditions that my patients had. So I never got to a freak out moment, but I was getting drained. I was getting emotionally drained, and I was actually starting to feel like, okay, am I making a significant difference in these people's lives?
And I could bet a large sum of money that the folks listening right now can relate to that, can resonate on many levels. This next question is the one I would ask you if I had 5 minutes with you. I'm very curious. How do you define success, Rich?
Now, as someone who's closer to the end of my career, I define success as happiness, my own well being, my own health, my relationships. I would have to say at the beginning of my career, that was not the definition. It was much more about whether or not I was going to be an effective physician and where would my career go. But I'm so fortunate to have recognized along the journey that there was more to it than that.
Yeah, our good fortune too. If you had to do it all over again, would you do anything differently?
This is always a tough question. I've heard other people ask me, do you regret anything? I'm not sure I would do anything again. I didn't have a very straight career, but I'm certainly, in retrospect, glad that I took different twists and turns because um, it really helped me see health and well-being from a lot of different angles. I guess when I talk to my wife about this every now and then, I do reflect. I wish I had more confidence when I was a teenager and when I was in college. I guess even early in my career. I guess that would have been nice to have. I think it would have been good for my well-being.
Same. We're kindred spirits there. That is the one thing I would have said to my younger self is to step through a doorway, any door, with a little more confidence than I had when I was younger. That's great.
I
Thank you.
don't think we're alone, Mary. I think that that's kind of a common challenge.
For sure, definitely. How about your superpower? Where have you spent 10,000 hours honing your superpower and
Yeah.
be unapologetic about it?
Yeah, definitely more than 10,000 hours on well-being in the workplace. But I think what I'm known for, and you mentioned in the introduction, I'm really known internationally for creating a well-being culture in the workplace. I'm known for it because of the framework that you shared that's highlighted in the book, but also for the success that we've had with that framework at Johns Hopkins Medicine.
Wonderful. Another full quote from the book. Most Americans say their job is their biggest stressor in life. And you walked us through a mindfulness meditation exercise during the workshop, which I still do almost every day,
Oh,
Rich.
wow.
Almost every
Wow.
day. It was that impactful. And you talk a lot about how to integrate mindfulness into a culture. So
Yeah.
would you say that that's part of your 10,000 hours?
Mary, first, I want to thank you for sharing that with me because this is, the joy that I was expressing earlier, asking me what gives me energy. It's when I feel like I've made a difference in somebody else's well-being. So thank you. Um, yeah, mindfulness is part of my well-being. It's part of the well-being strategy we have at Johns Hopkins Medicine. And Mary, believe it or not, a few days after the ASHRA conference, I flew to South Carolina and I spoke at another conference. And that presentation was all about how to integrate mindfulness into your workplace culture. So it's, in my opinion, it's really an area that there's a huge amount of potential for employers and employees to leverage.
Definitely. And it was simple but so elegant and so powerful, so impactful. So thank you for sharing that. And I know I'm not the only one. We did have some sidebar conversations afterwards. So savor that. Question for you: is there anything you wish you were better at?
Wish I was better at tennis. I, I wish I was more relaxed. I think you're asking though, am I, do I wish I was better at something in my job?
It could be. It could be. Yes.
Um, I feel rather lucky slash fortunate that I've been able to move the ball forward for everybody who's involved with supporting employee health and well-being. So I try to be kind to myself and recognize that, yeah, I could probably be better at some things, but nothing so much that it's jumping out at me. But I do think maybe if I was more relaxed, it could help me in my career as well, because people like to be around relaxed people.
Yes, you and I are kindred spirits in many ways. Yes, yeah, going on vacation is an art and a science.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
I actually take real vacations now for the past 5 years. When I was younger in my career, I was, checking emails like most of America. It's
same,
I'm in a
same,
much better place now.
definitely. So, what do you know about yourself to be absolutely true?
I love chocolate. Um, I'm very passionate about the work I do. It really fulfills me. I mostly practice what I preach, about the healthy lifestyle and putting my health and well-being first. Um, I say mostly because, I do have a little bit of a sweet tooth,
Well,
and I could be a little bit more relaxed, but those things are absolutely true of me.
good to know about the chocolate. So, I'm originally from the Pennsylvania area, so I
You're gonna tell
pledge
me
my
Hershey?
allegiance to Hershey's
Oh my
chocolate.
gosh.
Yes, so I would arm wrestle
Yeah.
you about the
Yeah.
brand. Do you have a
Yeah.
favorite chocolate brand? We have
I
to know.
I I don't wanna go there, but how about I just promote dark chocolate and that I, give a shout out to Hershey Park, and if anyone I mean, I was gonna say anyone with kids, but anybody. If you're in the region, I strongly recommend going to Hershey Park. Great experience. Lots
It
of
is a
fun,
great experience.
lots of good
Yes.
memories with our family.
Brilliant. Love it. Dark chocolate. Got it. So I have three more questions, and then we'll go into a bonus legacy question.
Okay.
The next question is, what would people be surprised to know about you?
Well, I was the lead in my high school musical. That I was the Baron von Trapp in The Sound of Music back in the 1980s. Yeah, yeah.
No kidding. Did you sing?
I sang, I danced. I actually am a lot of fun. I think I'm fun. I don't know. Other people have to decide. I think that's actually the core of what would surprise people because I'm pretty serious and I'm pretty focused on supporting the health and well-being of the populations I serve. So I think people probably don't pause to think, I wonder if this guy is any fun, but I think I am.
Love it. Good to know. And yes, I if you gave me 1,000 guesses, I would have never guessed that. And what a great part.
Yeah.
So these next two questions, we need your advice.
Mhm.
One is, what's a book that inspired you to behave or think differently?
Mm. I love books. I wish I had time to read more. And many have inspired me to think and behave differently, both from my personal as well as professional career. Mary, I'm going to think back far. When I was in college, I was studying nutrition. I shared that. And my professor at the time, my advisor, was T. Colin Campbell, who's world renowned in the field of nutrition. He earned his professorship at Cornell, and he was sharing with our class findings from the China study as the study was ongoing. And a few years later, the book called The China Study was published. And that's probably as far back as I can remember for books that influenced my thinking and behavior. Strongly recommend it to those who are interested in um, a huge epidemiology study about what's healthy to eat and what's not, and some myths and misconceptions about nutrition. And I think it will help us gain some clarity.
Excellent suggestion. I'm a book junkie as well, and that I have it has not hit my read list. So thank you for that.
Well,
Fascinating. How about a quote? Do you have a favorite quote or a motto, and what might that be?
oh, wow, you're really taxing me today. So I'm not very good at remembering quotes from people. I think it's a weakness. You asked me what was my super strength. This is a super weakness. But this year around the New Year's time, I did not make a New Year's commitment. I actually chose an affirmation that I created. I actually have it on the frame of my. Fortunately, it's on the frame of my monitor because otherwise I may not have remembered this at the time of this question. It says, "I am calm, content, and connected." And these are all qualities that I either strive to maintain or improve.
Yes, the three C's. We'll
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yes, calm,
Well,
content, and connected.
yeah. So, Mary, interestingly, I had two of the C's, and then I realized if I get a third C, I would have similarly, like the three C's in the book, a cure for the common company. And so that expanded my calm and content to then include also connected.
Connected makes sense. It's great advice. Wonderful. That's exactly what we were looking for. I have one more bonus question, but
Mhm.
before we go to that, is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up?
I would just ask your listeners or our listeners to think about their workday and think about what are some of the hurdles that you face every day that get in the way of having a healthy and well day. If you just pause for 10, 15 minutes and write down a couple, I'm pretty sure you can think of strategies that could help you get over those speed bumps and invite yourself to ask for help from those around you at work or figure out strategies. Um, Mary, the book outlines how to create a well-being culture on your team and across your organization, but each of the chapters has content to help the individual navigate these hurdles. And I think it's really valuable that we don't just like let chance influence our health and well-being.
Definitely. And one last
Mhm.
piece from your book, an excerpt. Market research shows that well-being and work-life balance are top of mind to recruit the best and the
Oh
brightest
yeah,
candidates. So you
absolutely.
talk about how to incorporate this into a retention and talent acquisition strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't just talk about it. We engage in this. We it's one of our recruitment and retention strategies is to help use well-being. I mean, Mary, that same mindfulness practice that I delivered and you received at the Ashford conference, we deliver to every incoming orientation class as
Brilliant.
part of their orientation day. Everyone knows that most important things are shared at orientation, including how we value well-being. And we teach our new employees, our new managers, how to do a 4-7-8 breathing exercise because we want them to realize, hey, it might get stressful, but when it does, there's an exercise that takes 90 seconds or less, and we're going to teach it today.
It's been really, really helpful. So one last question, if I may, and that is this. If a higher power, put that in air quotes, if a
Yeah.
higher power would let you do, be, have, see anything, what would that be? No
Oh
limits.
goodness. This is like what super. Oh, Okay, you asked me the superhero question, but I'm thinking like Superman, like I could lift anything. Wow. Maybe create peace across the planet. Maybe cause everyone to align to make decisions that support not just our own individual health, but the health of the world, the planet, like our own sustainability. I know I just gave you two, but I would take either, frankly. That would be amazing.
Yes, peace. So it makes sense. What a gift that affirmation that you gave to us, Rich. I am calm, content, and connected. Go get a copy of Dr. Safir's book. It is a keeper, and you can find out more information about him on LinkedIn, or you can visit his website at Richard Safir, RICHARD SAFEER.com. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you, Mary.